Today, we'll talk about corporate tax policy. But how exactly does corporate tax policy work? We'll watch this video to find out more.
Say you're a U.S. company, and you open up an office overseas to serve British customers. Any money you make in Great Britain is taxed at Great Britain's tax rate, in this case, 25%. And as long as you leave that money in Great Britain, you don't have to pay any more taxes on it. But say you want to bring that money back into the United States. Well, before you can bring that money back to invest in the U.S., you have to pay the difference between England's tax rate and the U.S. tax rate. And since the U.S. has the second highest corporate tax rate in the world, no matter where you're bringing the money from, you're likely to have to pay an extra tax to bring it home to the U.S.
Do you understand it better now? Well, corporate taxes technically started in 1861, but in 1894 Congress enacted the Wilson-Gorman Tariff Act, which was the origin of taxes. However, when a case was presented to the Supreme Court in 1895 in Pollock versus Farmers Loan and Trust Company, the Supreme Court ruled that portions of the law were unconstitutional. But after World War I and FDR becoming president, the New Deal caused the government to need more funding that couldn't be found in the upper class anymore. So the government went into the middle class, which eventually, in the future, led to corporate tax. In 1960, compared to today, corporate tax revenue as a percentage of federal tax revenues was 23% to 13%, meaning a decrease. But in 2006, it was noted that corporate taxes were up to 15% of federal revenues, which hasn't been seen since the late 1970s. However, as you can see on this graph, in 1981, the United States didn't have a high corporate tax compared to other countries. But compared to 2007, the United States has the second highest corporate tax. Now that is a jump in position. Ken Keyes, a tax lobbyist with the Federal Policy Group in Washington, noted that the top corporate rate was a lot higher in the 1960s than it is now, which clearly shows the change in corporate taxes over time. But you may ask, how is corporate tax relevant today? Well, in the 2016 presidential election, candidates Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton both had something to say about their policies and corporate taxes.
I'll be reducing taxes tremendously, from 35% to 15% for companies, small and big businesses. That's going to be a job creator like we haven't seen since Ronald Reagan.
And if companies take tax breaks and then ship jobs overseas, we'll make them pay us back, and we'll put that money to work where it belongs, creating jobs here at home.
Now, from these policies, people have gone to Twitter to voice their opinion, such as Brigade Burton, who said it's simple. You lower the tax rates, stop the special interest, and companies will come back. Or even GD4, who said companies leave the country so that they can loophole tax cuts and not pay taxes. However, on the other hand, we have people who put out tweets that are not 100% factual, such as Michael R. Brandt, who said the US has one of the lowest tax rates in the world. Anyone who says companies are leaving from high taxes is clueless, where in this case, Michael R. Brandt is implying that tax rates are lower in the US, but in reality, compared to the rest of the world, the US's rates are quite high, which in turn disproves his argument against Trump. Or even another Twitter user named Astrid Fournier, who tweeted that taxes are too high, while explaining why companies are also leaving Canada despite us having the lowest corporate tax on the continent. And even though Astrid makes a valid point about how companies are not just leaving the US, she was incorrect about Canada having the lowest corporate tax, since there are other countries that have lower corporate taxes than Canada. Now, all over the world, especially in the US, people will support Trump's reducing of corporate taxes because of the understanding between Trump and his supporters because of his simple argument. And those who support either candidate would have tweets that are supporting their argument but misrepresenting the facts. And because of people trying to prove their points, the facts are warped into what the person wants their audience to see it as. And now you should see that anti-intellectualism is present in a variety of topics, and not only corporate taxes and policy.